Hi friends, it's Thursday. Let's get started with our reading packets. If you would go ahead and grab your packet, we will begin on page number 23 of your reading packet. Page number 23 of your reading packet. Today's story is called The Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. The Wolf in Sheep's Clothing is a fable. We learned on Tuesday that fables often have animals that act like people. They teach us a lesson or a moral, which means we learn something important after reading them. Sometimes fables can have heroes. They often take place outside. Usually fables only involve 2 or 3 characters. There's not a whole lot of people or animals in them. There's usually a character that has a weakness or something bad or something that they're not great at. And sometimes there's even a villain, which means a bad guy or a bad person or animal. Today's fable is called The Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. As we read, our objective is going to be to keep track of those important details so we can tell the most important things that happened at the beginning, middle, and end of the story. Our objective is also to answer some questions after we're done reading using details from the text. Let's dive right in on paragraph number 1. Follow along with me. Once there was a wolf who wanted nothing more than to eat one of the sheep that lived in the meadow. But the shepherd, who keeps track of the sheep, kept a close watch over the sheep. Every time he would see the wolf, he chased him back into the forest. Right then and there, I found what the wolf's problem is. If I go back into the text, it says that the wolf wanted nothing more than to eat one of the sheep. But his problem was, every time the shepherd would see the wolf, he would chase him back into the forest. Okay, now I know the wolf's problem. Let's continue to read. Then one night, the wolf found a sheep's fluffy white fleece. The reason why I highlighted that yellow is because if I don't know what the word fleece means, I can go back into the sentence and I see it says fluffy white. So fleece is a fluffy white material that's often used to make clothes. It comes from sheep. Then one night the wolf found a sheep's fluffy white fleece. The shepherd had forgotten it. "Aha!" cried the wolf. "I think this fleece might solve my problem." With a tug and a pull, the wolf dressed himself in the fleece. Now he looked just like a sheep. So now he's disguised himself. He put on the sheep's fleece, so he looks just like a sheep would. The wolf trotted into the meadow wearing the fleece. He walked among the sheep, and this time the shepherd didn't chase him away. Why do you think the shepherd wouldn't chase him away now? It says up at the front, up at the top, it says the shepherd always chased him back into the forest every time he would see the wolf. What's so different about this time? Well, remember, he's wearing that fleece. So I think that the shepherd probably thinks that he's a sheep. That very night, the wolf carried off a large sheep to have for his dinner. So the wolf finally succeeded in getting that sheep that he's been wanting so much. The next day, the wolf wore the fleece again and strolled freely among the sheep. But this time, the shepherd did notice the wolf. He said to himself, "That looks like a fine sheep for my stew tonight." Before the wolf could leap away, the shepherd grabbed him. And that night, the shepherd, who was taking care of the sheep, enjoyed a delicious stew. Does everybody see what just happened there? I'm going to read the last couple of paragraphs so you can see what I'm noticing happened to the wolf. Not a great way to end things for the wolf. The next day, the wolf wore the fleece again and strolled freely among the sheep. But this time, the shepherd did notice the wolf. he said to himself. That looks like a fine sheep for my stew tonight. Before the wolf could leap away, the shepherd grabbed him, and that night the shepherd enjoyed a delicious stew. So the shepherd was the one that caught the wolf, and it says he enjoyed a delicious stew. I have a feeling that the shepherd might have actually cooked the wolf to enjoy him as a delicious stew. The text doesn't actually tell us that, but I'm a pretty smart reader. I can put the clues together and make a good inference, which means a smart guess, and guess that the shepherd actually ended up eating the wolf. All right. Question number 1. I hope you have a pencil ready so you can work alongside with me. Question number 1. In the story, there is a sentence that says, every time he saw the wolf, he, the shepherd, chased him back into the forest. So every time the shepherd would see the wolf, he would chase the wolf back into the forest. Why is that important to the beginning of the story? So why is that so important that the shepherd would always chase the wolf away? Is that important because A, it tells why the wolf can't get near the sheep? Does that sentence tell us why the wolf can't get near the sheep? Well, let's think about it. Why can't the wolf get near the sheep? Because the shepherd chased him back into the forest. So I'm going to stop right there and I'm going to go ahead and circle A. Why is it so important that every time he saw the wolf, the shepherd chased him back into the forest? Because it tells why the wolf isn't able to get near the sheep. Just in case I don't have any better options, let me read B. B says, it tells why the sheep are not afraid of the wolf. That doesn't tell me why the sheep aren't afraid of the wolf. Every time they see the wolf, the shepherd chases him back into the forest. Not quite sure about that one. Let's look at C. It tells us why the wolf wanted to eat the sheep. Does having the shepherd chase the wolf into the forest tell us why he wanted to eat the sheep? No. D, it tells us why the shepherd forgot the fleece. It hasn't even talked about the fleece yet, so we know it's definitely not D. After reading all my options very carefully and thinking about the details from the story, I'm going to have to say A. It tells us why the wolf is not able to get close to the sheep like he wants to. Part A, question 2. How did the wolf end up fooling the shepherd? A, he made a noise like a sheep. I don't remember anything about the wolf making a noise like a sheep. B, he hid in the forest. How would hiding in the forest help the wolf fool the shepherd? No. C, he waited until the shepherd left. Not quite sure about that one. Let's see if there's a better option with D. D, he wore the fleece of the sheep. If I go back into the text, I definitely remember it saying, with a tug and a pull, the wolf dressed himself in fleece. Now he looked just like a sheep. So, for question number 2, how did the wolf fool the shepherd? He wore the fleece of a sheep. He disguised himself, which means he made himself look different than he usually does. For part B, you'll need to use your pencil to write. Write the sentence from the text that explains why the wolf's trick worked. When the wolf wore the fleece of the sheep, why did it work? How did the wolf's trick work? When he wore the fleece of the sheep, why did that end up tricking the shepherd? How come that would work by putting on fleece? How would that trick the shepherd? Question number 3. Look at the chart and let's put these events in order. Which sentence belongs in the empty box? What they've done is they've put events from the story in order of what happened first, second, and third. The only thing is, they left the second event blank. We have to remember back from the story what came after number 1. Number 1 says, the wolf puts on the sheep's fluffy white fleece. We have to go back into the story to try to figure out what happened after the wolf put on the sheep's fluffy white fleece. What happened after that? Let's see. A, the shepherd chases the wolf into the forest. B, the wolf walks into the herd of sheep. C, the shepherd notices the wolf. Or D, the shepherd cooks a delicious stew. What happens after the wolf puts on the fleece? Let's go back into the text. With a tug and a pull, the wolf dressed himself in the fleece. Now he looked just like a sheep. Remember, we're listening for what comes after that. What comes after he dresses himself in the fleece? The wolf trotted into the meadow wearing the fleece. He walked among the sheep, and this time the shepherd didn't chase him away. Okay, I think I have a pretty good idea. For number 3, what happens after he puts on the fleece? Well, the shepherd does not chase him into the forest. The wolf walks into the herd of sheep. We just read that. After he puts on the fleece, he's able to walk into the herd of the sheep, and the shepherd does not notice him. Number 4. What do you think strolled means? Okay, listen to the sentence. Use the context clues, which are clues from the sentence, to try to determine what strolled means. The next day, the wolf wore the fleece again and strolled freely among the sheep. What does strolled mean? He ran through the herd of sheep? Do you think strolled means that he walked slowly among the sheep? Do you think strolled means that he stayed away from the sheep? Or do you think that strolled means he chased the sheep in the meadow? Well, if I go back into the text, if I go back into the story, here's the sentence that we're looking at. The next day, the wolf wore the fleece again and strolled freely. Up here, I see it says that he walked among the sheep. So I'm guessing he walked among the sheep. I'm guessing when it says that he strolled freely among the sheep, that they're saying that he walked slowly among the sheep. Walked slowly among the sheep. Remember, he's got his disguise on. He feels comfortable. He doesn't think he's going to get caught. On page number 27, I only want you to do number 5. Number 5 wants you to list the most important things that happen in the story from the beginning, middle, and end. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to go back to page 23. You're going to need to go back to the story to remember the most important things that happened at the beginning of the story, in the middle of the story, and at the end of the story. For example, if I go back to the beginning of the story, I think at the beginning of the story, one of the most important parts was that there was a wolf who kept wanting to eat the shepherd's sheep. So I might start off by saying at the beginning of the story, let's see here. Just a second. I might start off by saying at the beginning of the story, the wolf wants to eat the shepherd's sheep, but keeps getting chased away. I want you to take it from there and go ahead and continue to list the most important things that happened in the text. After you've told me what happens at the beginning of the story, the middle of the story, and the end of the story, you'll skip number 6 and go down to page number 28. Page number 28. After you've retold the story and told me the most important pieces, why is it so important that we tell what happens in a story in order? All right.